Welcome to Candlewick Library. I'm Cheryl, and today I'm showing my new library. It wasn't that long ago that I showed a tour of my library in our house, but at that point I thought it was going to be years before I had what I wanted. I didn't know we were going to be able to build the library I've been dreaming of so soon. I wanted certain shelves at IKEA in a certain color, and that they weren't offering that color anymore. The last time I had checked, I'd been looking for years. Last month, Doug and I went to an IKEA. I was shocked to find out that they did have the color I wanted back. We came home, I measured out the room, decided what we wanted, and then I made an order to pick up at the IKEA, but I also had to do an online order, and then I also had to put in the thing where they notify you, and so I would get notifications over the next few days when things came into stock and was able to get all of the pieces I needed. I've had a very clear picture in my mind of what I wanted my library to look like, and this was inspired by a library that I love. When my mom and I were planning our trip to Europe in 2016, we went to England for most of that time. I was planning that trip for a couple of years before we went, to save up and to plan out everything that I wanted to do just in case we never made it back again. We knew that we wanted to go to Oxford, and I knew that I really wanted to go to the Queen's College Library. I couldn't find anything about it online, about visiting it, so I emailed the library asking if it was possible to tour it. And I did get an email back from them. A woman that worked there told me that they actually didn't offer tours of this library, but that if I could be there at a certain time on the day that we were going to be in Oxford, that she would allow my mom and I to go into the library. On Wednesday, April 13th of that year, we went to Oxford and we checked in with the security there, and then they radioed someone to tell them that we were there and saying that we were going to be able to tour the library. And this woman came down to security and met us and took us to the library. She gave us instructions on how to go through the working part of the library where there were students studying it that was beneath the original library. And so we had to walk past a bunch of students, and then she opened up a little gate and allowed us to go up the stairs up to the library that I wanted to tour. It was a beautiful spiral staircase that led up to this library. It was all a really beautiful, rich wood. When we got to the top of the staircase and I saw this library in person for the first time, I was just in awe. It was so beautiful to me. And there are many libraries around the world that are beautiful this way, and some that are more spectacular than this one, but there was something about this library that just spoke to me, and I just loved it from the instant I saw it online, but once I saw it in person, it even more so. And it was really awesome how quiet it was, and that we were the only people there. The woman did not come up with us, so my mom and I had this whole library to ourselves for, I think it was about a half an hour that we stayed up there. We just stood at one edge of the library for a long time just looking at it. And then we walked slowly back and forth multiple times looking at all of the shelves. So I really wanted to build a library that was inspired by this library. Obviously, I couldn't do it exactly the same, but I wanted to have some things here and there that reminded me of that library, and I wanted the color to be based on that library. This was the color that I wanted to get to be close to that color. Then there were a few touches that I'll show as I do the tour of the library that came from this college. At one end of the room, over one of the doors, the arts and sciences are represented by two female figures. One of the women represents science, the other one represents the arts. The cherubs on it are holding the college's coat of arms of 3 red eagles. So that was something that I wanted to put into my library, and so I'll show that in a minute. And then I took a lot of inspiration from the globes. This library had 2 globes. One is a celestial globe and one is a terrestrial globe. Then there was something called an orrery. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correct. I thought that that was a really cool looking thing. All of the shelves were beautiful. There was stained glass. The shelves had really pretty designs on the edges of them. I was just so inspired by this library. Like I said, I've wanted to recreate it as much as possible here. So I'm going to take you around the room and I'm going to show you my library now. Along the way, I'll show things that are inspired by things in this library. Say goodbye to that window. It's going to be covered up soon, which seems weird, but it's not going to be. A disaster over here. First, here by my door is where my chair is now, and I just have decorated the back of the door with artwork. And then above the door, I have this inspired by what was above the door in that library that I showed. On this one, I painted the little eagle. I couldn't fit 3, so I just did 1. Next to my chair, I have my table, my TBR cart. Here I bought these frames from Hobby Lobby and stained them the same color that we stained the crown molding on my bookshelves. On the left are pictures from the library that I showed that inspired me. On the right are pictures from Notre Dame Cathedral, because my mom and I had a very meaningful experience there as well on that same trip. I've got some more Oxford Library items hanging there and a painting of Notre Dame from Sweet Sequels. On the shelf next to that, I have this Notre Dame Cathedral Lego set that my husband got me. It even lifts up and has the cool floor and everything in there. And then I have some pictures from Shakespeare and Company bookstore. This bookshelf is now my unread shelf. So it has all of the books I haven't read, but also this pile of books right here is the books I've read this month so far. I do have these little things that are going to go on the sides of the shelf, but the way I tried to do it fell off, so I have to figure out another way to attach those. Next to that, I have my Harry Potter section. Here are the pictures that I got at the fan convention I went to in September. I really loved this artist style. And then this is just the Harry Potter shelf I've shown before. The shelf next to that, I have my books that have dragons in them, my Tolkien books, my C.S. Lewis shelf. I recently got this from a fine quotation, and it has this quote, and then on the other side it has Reepicheep. And then I do have some more of my Narnia stuff there on the wall. And because this is the closest place next to Lord of the Rings, I have my Lord of the Rings Funko Pops here. We positioned the shelves so that I would have a Funko Pop sized shelf all the way around. Above the Lord of the Rings pops, I have Lucy Maud Montgomery, nonfiction and other things that are similar, and my signed picture of Megan Follows from when I met her. Here I have my Lucy Maud Montgomery books besides the Anne of Green Gables series, and a painting of Peggy's Cove that my daughter did, and my little Peggy's Cove figurine. Below that are the Anne and Gilbert my other daughter made, and my Anne series. Next is my Louisa May Alcott shelf. Under that I have more classics, my Beatrix Potter shelf, and then down there are kind of random nonfiction books. Next to that, I have plays, Winnie the Pooh and Fables and Myths, poetry, my Anne doll and replica of the first edition of Anne, my Jane Austen and the Jane Austen pop, and then just a few more Anne of Green Gables things. And next to that, here is my dinosaur shelf. I've got the little mosquito and amber, a fossil, my Jurassic Park Funko Pops, my Michael Crichton books that not all of them are dinosaur, but all the rest of the books I have by him, plus other books that I have that are related to dinosaurs. My Sherlock Holmes shelf. So on the left here I have my Sherlock Holmes books. On the right there's Enola Holmes or anything else that's related to Sherlock Holmes. In the middle, Great Mouse Detective. I bought these bookends off of Etsy from a shop in Ukraine. Then my Agatha Christie shelf. Middle grade mystery, more middle grade mystery, all of my Happy Hollister's books. And then here, and going into the next shelf, I have my Nancy Drew. Above that I have books that are kind of spooky. Same above that, the Jamie Jo Wright type of books. More mysterious books that are kind of adult. My James Ponti books. And then here and up at the top here I have dystopian type of books and my Hunger Games pops. Here there's kind of just random adult books and things that were too big for the shelves that they would have gone on. My Dracula and Twilight Funko Pops, and then this has vampire books and Frankenstein retellings, so it's basically a supernatural shelf, I guess. Then historical fiction, some historical fiction, some contemporary fiction. Then here I have some classics, children's classics, and this goes basically from here with the children's books. It starts in classics and goes through to more modern ones. Then I have some of my favorite contemporary children's books. Our classic starts, little nonfiction. Here I have more women's fiction. My Susan Branch books. More artwork by my daughters. Some random Funko Pops. It looks like Hamilton has fallen over. And some family pictures and a globe. On this top shelf again I have things that are too big for other shelves, and then our Tuttle Twins books, and from there going on to this shelf are the Good and the Beautiful book collection. I have some other pops up there because I did run out of space. My Indiana Jones pops. This shelf is adventure books, and this one is as well. Got my Around the World in 80 Days type of books and this little Lego set. And then under that I've got fantasy. And then just general fiction, some westerns, graphic novels, manga, and the books that are regular text but have anime style pictures. These two shelves are our history type books. These range from children all the way to adults. And there is fiction and nonfiction. I kind of mixed it all together. It's just anything that I felt was more historical than historical fiction. Some of them are ones we've used in homeschool, and so it goes from earliest times to modern times. Above that, I have my World War II shelf, but I did decide I didn't want to separate all my Jennifer Nielsen books, so all of her books are there, even the ones that are not World War II. And then I have more middle grade fantasy. And then here are books that maybe Disney made movies of, and fairy tales and fairy tale retellings, and some of my Disney Funko Pops, although it looks like that Emma Swan has also fallen over there. And the fairy tale retellings leads into this shelf where I've got my Beauty and the Beast shelves and pops, Beauty and the Beast retellings, other retellings. And then under that I do have my Little House on the Prairie books. I decided to separate those from the other historical books. This shelf has the children's nonfiction, the Who Was or What Was books, biographies, I Survived, and the Totally True Adventures. And then the last two shelves there are Christmas books. Here in the corner I have the control for my light/fan and my Beauty and the Beast pictures from when I met those voice actors. And that brings us back to the doors. So you can kind of see how we used the IKEA shelf that I wanted. Doug screwed them all to the walls and then to each other so that they are securely put in. When I found the crown molding I wanted that reminded me of the top of the bookshelves at that library, it wasn't quite tall enough to reach the ceiling. So he put a layer of wood down on top of the bookshelves and stained that, and then put the crown molding on top of that and stained that as well to give it the look of being built in. And then this is the light fixture I found that reminds me of the orrery and the globes. I love sitting here now and just looking at it, so hope you enjoyed this tour. I'd love to hear what you think of this library. The only other thing that I dreamt of having in my library eventually that we didn't do was a rolling ladder. I did look at them, but we felt like it was, for one, I felt like it was going to be more expensive than I wanted it to be. And then it also didn't feel very practical in a room with carpet. So I decided I just didn't care enough about that. We have a little stool in here that will work for reaching the high shelves. Again, I didn't think I would have this so soon, and I'm so excited that IKEA brought back the color I wanted. I was a little bit worried before I went and picked them up and started opening the boxes that it wouldn't be exactly the shade I was looking for, because one of the display ones in IKEA didn't look exactly right. I was extremely pleased when I opened the box and saw that it was exactly the color I wanted. I really like the quality of these IKEA shelves. I've been hearing about the IKEA Billy shelves for so long, and they really did live up to what I was hoping the quality would be, and the ease of putting them together as well. I love being able to have a corner shelf so that the whole wall just goes around like that. Let me know if you have any questions about it or wanted tours in the future that are more in depth of the shelves. And let me know what your dream library would have. And if you visited any libraries around the world that have affected you and inspired you the way this one did to me.